Okay, made a lot of changes to this little amplifier. This was built, as best I can tell, sometime very late 60s, very early 70s, but I'm leaning more to around 1968 or 9. I've worked on a lot of these things since, God, 1974 maybe. So about 50 years. Anyway, I've worked on these. This was called an Elkin. It's a little grid-driven amp. There were a lot of variations of these made over the years. Easy to put on different bands. I ran a 12 tube with 1625. It's on 40 meters for years. You can't. They're almost destruction proof. This has got it's a grid-driven amp. Runs about 750 volts plate. That's another reason I'm leaning towards the year. A little later, the high voltage Ray started building these with around 900 or so on the plate. So it's about 750 volts. I installed a circuit here. There was something else in place at the time. Somebody did, I don't know. Anyway, it didn't work. I installed a high voltage transformer heatsink to the chassis, and I vary the screen voltage from about 80 volts to around 150. It runs negative 40 to negative 80 on the control grid, adjustable from inside. That's actually plate tune, plate load. Let's see if you can see it down through the openings here. I'll move my shot light around here. Shine inside. I don't know if you can see that or not. Right there it is. Okay, if you look at the far end of the, well, maybe it'll work better this way. Trying to get light in this thing. There it is. See that Arco trimmer down there? That's on the output of, that's on the downstream side of the tank. So this thing is Class AB2 and actually push-pull link coupled. See the aluminum tank coil. I was never crazy about the way, I don't know why Ray used aluminum on the tank, but he did. And so you have to use that special, it's not really a brazing rod, but you have to use that special rod to essentially solder aluminum to copper to make the connection for the plate caps and such. Anyway, I fixed all that. This side was broken loose. I installed a switch to power transformer. If you look down through here, power transformer had an extra winding center tap for 6 volts. So considering the abundant supply of 6 DQ6s and 6 GW6s, I added that in. These tubes are very cheap, so you can literally drop those in place of the 12 DQ6s that are in there and flip that switch, and it'll automatically reconfigure for the filament voltage. The 2 tubes there, that's OA2, they're voltage regulator tubes in the screen circuit. I put in new filter caps here and raised the capacitance quite a bit. So this thing on high all the way up is with about 3 watts or so drive at about 5 watts PP. I've got rigs here that I've converted. That's one that's on several of my videos. Converted to 10 meters AM. So with the power all the way up here, it's about 100 watts carrier with 3 in, and so let's see, what does it say? About 90, right at 100 watts. Top scale, hello, about 325, 350 peak. And this will do about 150 on sideband, and it's got a delay switch so you can use it on single sideband. We need the digital modes, so SDR rigs, QRP rigs, all that stuff works real well. So I've got the bottom off for the purpose of the video. I'll put some light on this. These things, a number of them I've worked on over the years. The plate, that's a split stator, since that's push-pull, split stator cap. So these The tank coil is a little shy. It really could stand one more turn, but I can pad it here and bring it out so there's adjustability in plate tune. I had to replace this. Let me get my pointer because this thing is still turned on here. All right, so here is that's my negative voltage pass transistor. There's a bias circuit down here that allows you to adjust from 40 to about 80 volts minus. That's the pass transistor for that. You can see the input here is it's a butterfly coil, link coupling in the middle. That's already been optimized and some adhesive put on. It's a very, very well made amp. This is the high voltage transistor I use for varying the screen supply. There's the bottom of the switch to toggle the filament. This is Nomad Radio, made some little standalone keying circuits. I was able to reconfigure this. Wasn't happy with the output to begin with, but it's got a set of ports on the back here and here, so you can use it to key a larger amp downstream. So if you got a QRP rig and you want to run a FL 2100, a Kenwood amp, whatever you got, HF amp, this will key that. Replaced these filter caps here and here. This is the diode string for the regulated screen supply adjustment. Had a couple of these current voltage dropping resistors were burned out. New caps in here. Anyway, also installed a 3-wire safety power cord. It already demonstrated that it was about 60 volts between the chassis and ground. Extremely low current, but it was there. It would make you hurt yourself. This is the neutralization leads that go up top by the plates of the tubes. These things are really, really super duper clean running amplifiers. So this is a true Elkin. I see amps from back in the day. A lot of people jump and call them Elkins, and they are Scouts and various other things. Ray did build the Elites and Xeron and some other amps like that, but this was pretty much his flagship amplifier. He did these smaller cabinet. Well, actually, the earlier ones had cabinet this size, but there was a 2-tube, 4-tube, 6-tube, 8-tube version of this, and then in a larger cabinet. Well, actually, in this cabinet, he stopped at 6-tube, 2-tube, 4-tube, 6-tube. He had a larger cabinet where he had 8-tube, 12-tube. There was actually a few 10-tube versions. The early ones from when Ray first started building, he used 1625s. Quite a long story behind that, but it was a pretty interesting tube to use, which is essentially a 12-volt 807. Okay, so we gave this one a nice facelift. She looks almost new again, and these are great little amplifiers.